Good evening, everyone. Ads from Unity Trading Group here, and welcome to another Thursday night live session scan. Unfortunately, I am the only one on tonight. I'm rolling this solo. My partner in crime wasn't able to make this session, busy doing other bits and pieces. So, without further ado, I will invite you guys, if you haven't seen it already, unitytradinggroup.com. You can get involved by hitting join the Discord, and you can have a look at our fantastic suite of indicators by clicking the indicators up there in the menu there. But enough on that. We'll have a look straight into BTC and see what's going on. Let me just chuck the header up there so we know what's happening. So with BTC, not too much to really talk about with BTC tonight. I did say in the Discord in my update this morning, you know, we're really just teetering down and respecting this, you know, very short-term downwards trend line with this, you know, low quality short-term demand zone down the bottom. They're really going hand in hand. And there was a bit of a flurry earlier today on the 4-hour charts where we thought we were going to get a breakout. We did indeed close above, but we soon returned to the mean, and we are back under that trend line now, and you know, continuing to form this descending triangle. And you know, on the high grand scale of things, excuse me, I'm trying to find the words here. On the grand scale of things, in terms of this pattern in general, more than likely and more often than not, they do break to the downside, or they do form that continuation pattern that we really find ourselves in. And I've seen this play out a number of times with BTC, in this sort of formation, this downwards pattern, and even the opposite where we bounce towards something higher and we continue to the upside. So I've seen that happen many times, and the main one that I've really seen this on, the biggest event that I really saw this occur was on the opposite side of things, where we're breaking out of that lower bearish market from 2018, excuse me, where we were at that 4K lows, and we smashed through that and made that $1,000 upwards candle. Anyway, in the mid to short term, I would expect BTC to maybe return down to that 10,000 psychological support level that we find ourselves in, respecting this formation currently. Nothing really much to touch on other than that. It hasn't had a whole lot of volume. As you can see by the volume indicator down the bottom here, we are decreasing day on day, or hour by hour, 4 hour by 4 hour, excuse me, or candle by candle. And we're not really making higher highs. We are just continuing this lower high sort of structure. If you zoom into the lower time frames, yes, we have double topped, if you would call it that, around that 10,400 level. Right now, if we draw that 10,400 resistance in there, we have caused a double top scenario. Excuse me, looking for the words. But not much else happening on that front. If we zoom into the 4 hour, it's a little bit more evident, where we've found some resistance there at 10,400, and then we have now returned underneath, or back underneath, that descending trend. If we look on the 1 hour time frame, I know I don't usually look at the 1 hour, but Steamroller calling that fake out, should you call it, at 10.4, and telling us that we need to start declining or start returning back underneath that trend, and that's what we've done. In the longer term scale of things, on the macro scale, the daily candle not looking too fantastic, but we are honestly heading towards that gap at around that 9.6. The only indicator that looking towards that lower scale of things is Steamroller, and we are looking for Steamroller to come down and test that green level when we do get back down, or when we do get down to that 9.6 gap, and cause some damage down there. If we do, honestly, looking that way for the medium short term, and I'll be obviously keeping you guys up to date with these live sessions, obviously, and within the Discord, on what my thoughts will be over the next coming days. And obviously, we've got another live session tomorrow morning to assess the damage, or assess what price actions occurred overnight on this Thursday evening turn night. That's enough for BTC though. We'll have a quick look at Ethereum. So ETH, wrong watch list. Here we go. ETH. Here we go. So ETH USD really taking charge in terms of the price action that we're seeing here. And I haven't touched the fibs. I will now, knowing now we know where that bottom of the move is, and I'll just redraw it in. Okay. Now there is this 38.2 fib retracement is quite significant, and if I draw a line, horizontal ray all the way across with this 38.2 fib retrace, you can see there's a lot of liquidity sitting here on the left hand side. A number of events happening over the left hand side here with this 38.2. So naturally speaking, if we do have some form of respected candles down here at demand, which we have, it would be the best sort of level to look for in terms of liquidity targets, if you were looking for that 38.2. Because most of the time when you do have a market that's slipping or a market that's pumping, the return to the mean or a decent pullback level is the 38. So there's option A, and B is because we have a significant amount of liquidity to the left that refers to the 38.2 in this instance. That's where you would find Ethereum returning to that form of liquidity to either get rejected or push through and move to the next level. I'm suspecting it's going to be the latter, and we would be being rejected or it's going to be a hard time for Ethereum. This is going to be a decent resistance level, this 38.2 fib retracement for ETH to come towards, and we're seeing that immediately apparent where we've had a little bit of front run on the previous 4-hour candle on this level. So there's a couple of things that could occur here. We could come up and retest this level, this 38.2, and have some sort of rejection event, which would probably come in line or fall in line with some of this liquidity here. If we have maybe a wick up, or even you could even draw it off some of these, or this entire bracket of candles here, to give you that 38.2 supply level, should you call it that. And more than likely that's probably its target at this 378.62 towards this 390 level before we see any forms of rejection on ETH USD. And I would think that's where we're headed if we haven't reached the top of this move already. If we don't get front run 378, that 38.2 is where I would put ETH USD in the medium to short term. Obviously over tonight and tomorrow, you might see it head up to that 38.2 before a market rejection. That's really a key thing to take away with a lot of the alt market in general, where we're seeing these mini breakouts or mini volume increases and moves to the upside before we get to critical reversal levels or critical fib levels to form our continuation back down to the mean or back down to the scene of the crime or demand, depending on what you're charting up. Remember, I'm just keeping an eye on all of our comments, so if you have anything that you want charted up, leave it in the comments on YouTube, leave it in the general section on Discord, and we'll get to it. The last one I wanted to have a look at, keeping it short and sweet with this one. There's a lot of talk of ADA, BTC and ADA USDT on the Discord also. So with ADA, very, very similar structure to ETH, although not as much volume, so it hasn't really taken the move. But we are sitting on this support level here, and I'll get out of this and I'll go to the daily time frame, and you can see the respected level of support. If I just get across here, where was it? Just there. Yeah, so you can see the liquidity on the left hand side on the daily. There's a lot of activity around this key support area, and support being something I don't use often, but in this instance it's quite substantial. We've seen some wicks to this support, and it's been wicked up and held and closed above on the daily numerous times now. But I'm not confident in big moves on the alts, big moves on Ethereum, and I'm not confident on reaching for targets that are out of reach at the moment. And what I mean by that is, on a daily time frame on ADA, it would be a decent swing trade to swing it from support to resistance or support to supply, which would be a 40% move. This is kind of it's a little bit, you're reaching too high in terms of this move. Where we know that BTC is on a knife's edge. We know that BTC can have imminent moves to fill that gap, over some silly moves on the weekend, or even towards Friday, or even next week. It might just move sideways till next week. We don't know what could happen. However, I would be just taking a little bit more caution if you're looking at stuff like ADA, even though it's a big cap, a high cap asset. I'd be just taking a little bit more caution in your trading, because there is decreased volume. Obviously, you can see immediately, the difference between Ethereum and ADA. You can see immediately the volume difference, and you can see the difference in price action, where we don't have substantial moves. We don't have substantial increases in price as Ethereum has had. So I'd just be keeping that in mind and keeping your expectations to a reasonable level when you're looking at these alts and these assets at the moment. Next one I have a look at, I'll look at ADA BTC for those who are charting. I don't know, Dill, you've been having a look at that in the Discord also. And this looking a little bit nicer in terms of the way that it's working. However, it's going to give us a very preemptive look of what could happen on the USD pair, especially when we're talking about our indicators, especially Steamroller, our homegrown indicator, where it's getting close to that overbought level, even with the dismal volume that we're seeing. So just keep this in mind. There is a level of supply just to the upside there using that red candle. If I, blow it up a little bit. And we have a look just to the left where we've got this small pivot point, this small resistance level just to the left at this 760 sat mark. We could see this come up, exactly the same scenario that you see on ETH USD, and then come more and get rejected and come to the downside. Pending BTC. BTC is going to be the level to look out for, or BTC is going to be the asset to look out for if we're looking for anything to give us some early info on what's going on. BTC is really coming down towards that level of demand that we saw earlier in the stream, and you need to keep that on your radar if you're trading any of these alts. I know myself, I am trading ADA, keeping stops in the right places, and keeping expectations to a reasonable level. If you're keeping your expectation, to the nearest level of demand, although it is on the smaller time frame, that is a reasonable expectation. If you're keeping your stops in the right place, and you're protecting yourself from a counter trend trade, because this is what that is. This is a counter trend trade. If we're looking at the high time frames, all in all, the daily time frame and the daily move's still bearish. So we're still seeing lower highs being created all the way down, and there's nothing stopping this from creating a further one before we reach, some of these more critical or key levels of demand moving down. So keeping your stops in the right place is going to be the best thing to do. And I can't premise that enough. I can't make a point greater than that. Just keep yourselves on the right side of the trade, and make sure if it's a counter trend trade, you need to be accounting and planning for those scenarios there. So if there is no requests for charts tonight, I'll go straight into the DXY and have a look at gold as well, and maybe a look at some of the stock market movements over the last couple of days. We'll have a look at the DXY. So I drew this on the DXY and I posted this in the Discord, I believe it was today, and I'm more expecting this to do what I've said in terms of the arrows that I've got here. So expecting this to return back to this 38.2 Fibonacci level where we've got some key liquidity just to the left. So it's always good practice to look left and see if there's any liquidity that lines up very well or marries up very well with those key levels of fib retracement. So 38.2, we've got a decent run to the upside. 38.2 would be the key level that I'd be looking for a bullish sort of retrace before a movement towards that higher level of supply. We have smashed through the key level of supply that we were looking at earlier this week and late last week. So that next level at 93.8 for the DXY would be the next key or the next critical supply level that I'd be looking for. That area of interest at 93.8 would be the one that I'm looking for. And obviously this is a regulated market. This is not financial advice by any means. Take this as a grain of salt. But these are just educational and topics and my ideas for these markets. Having a look, moving on towards gold. So gold, we've really been looking at these key fib levels over the course of the last couple of weeks, and nothing's changed. Honestly, we've got some short-term short-term levels of supply. If we're looking on the 4-hour time frames, the lower time frame stuff with gold, and we're holding this fib level very, very nicely, which is at this 1920. It's a 78.6 on the fib extension, or sorry, the trend-based fib tool on the left hand side, and Jamie, yes, we'll have a look at AUD CAD after we have a look at gold. But if we're looking for movement to the upside for gold, I'd be looking for that key level at 1980. However, there seems to be a decent amount of liquidity to the left-hand side, a decent amount of resistance, old school resistance that we need to look out for. And I have a certain suspicion, if we bring up the standard Ichimoku settings and we have a look at Ichi on the 4-hour time frame, that we're probably going to see some form of resistance as well. And yes, we are. So we're having a look at this Ichi level. There is some cloud resistance that we've got in the way. So if you're using Ichimoku to trade these levels, you'll be looking for a break towards, through the cloud, and possibly using maybe towards this sort of level here. We've got some cloud support. If we look just to the left, we've got a decent amount of liquidity to the left. I know it's a bit staggered, a bit hard to see. If I just turn that off, you can see that we've got a decent amount of liquidity to the left-hand side to really gauge where gold might be going if we do break through this cloud. And I'll put that back on so we can see what we're doing. Something like this, and then a test of the cloud towards that level of supply might be on the cards for gold, providing that we do have some form of retracement on the DXY. If we have more downwards movement on the DXY, even towards, even towards that level, towards the 50, that would cause a decent movement in gold, and a break of the cloud, and maybe a retest of that support before seeing us back up to that short-term 1980 level on gold. Silver, however, not faring so well. We have broken through this level, this key level of demand now. We are moving towards that 61 fib retracement that I've drawn in from those fibs, and there were old fibs drawn in, so we can definitely update that and see where we're at for silver. If I draw it properly, low to high to low, yeah, that 50 level's key. That 50 level is definitely key. We've got a lot of resistance, or a lot of liquidity to the left-hand side to look for with silver. If we do see that further retrace on the DXY, then that 27.38 level could be the next level for silver. And it's looking like we might get that. And there is a small short-term, and I'm talking short-term level of supply there at the 50, also using this little bounce that we can see on the way down. So silver looking towards that 50 mark, pending some more retracements, pending some more downward sloping movements on the DXY. As per the request, we'll have a look at AUD CAD. So AUD CAD, not something that I trade actively, so I'll have to do this right off the bat for you. I'll do it on the FXCM chart. Like I said, nothing charted up for AUD CAD. If I'm looking at market structure as a whole, and I'm not taking into account, any of the other charts like AUD or anything like that, if I had to call where this was going, or if I had to say where this was going, I'd be looking for two things, or one thing in particular, or two things in particular. We need to see a break in that 50 and that 61. We need to break, close above. That would be the first thing that I would want to see on AUD CAD to really confirm we're going back to the scene of the crime, or back to the norm, where we find that level of supply at 96.2. If that doesn't happen tonight, if we don't see that movement tonight over the course of the New York, London crossover in terms of volume, then it's not going to happen. More than likely, we'll see this return to even that 20. Oops, if I can draw properly, even we can see that return back to the 23.6. So if you're in this for a long, for example, I'd be looking for your stops to be in the right place, the first thing, and I'd be looking more on the probably drop a time frame and just pay a little bit more attention to where or what structure is forming. If we're looking at this move as a whole, as just an entirety on a smaller time frame, if you're looking for maybe that, then it's looking okay. It's looking okay for that sort of movement to the upside. We've had the swing low to swing high. We've had a 38.2 retracement, which is nice. And we could see a movement or further movement up back to that 96. And pending that, we can move back up to that supply up the top for AUD CAD. So like I said, if you drop down a time frame and just look at this move as a whole, it's looking okay for a continuation. We've had that 38.2 retrace for AUD CAD. So you just need to keep that in consideration, and it's not looking too bad off that really, really nicely respected short term or lower quality demand. Pending a break off that short term demand, the next one would be right at the bottom here at this 944 level, 0.944. If you're looking for maybe a longer term time frame trading on AUD CAD. The last one that I'll have a look at is the All Ordinaries. The All Ordinaries really has done what I've been expecting it to do, honestly. Pending, I was really going over this a couple of weeks ago, and even in the Discord also, where I've been saying wait for Labor Day US, wait for Labor Day US. That's going to be sort of a primer to see more sort of downwards, or more. We could see more sell-offs on the regulated stuff, more referring to the stock, and that's what we've seen. That's what we've seen since the 7th. We've seen this movement up and then a further downward sloping move, and we're seeing this pattern start, or this structure start to form, where we've made a high, we've made a lower low, now we're making a lower high, another one, and even possibly another one when we come up to open for tomorrow. So more than likely we're going to eat away this level of demand, as we have in the past on the 3rd of August. Since its inception, we've eaten away and destroyed most of the liquidity that was there. So we could expect further movements down, and I'm thinking more towards that 23.6 or that 5871 point level for the All Ords. But that's all I really wanted to say. That's all I really wanted to go over for the regulated stuff. Not too much happening with BTC. It's moving to the right, honestly. We are forming some lower highs on BTC. ETH making ways for a little bit of a move. But just, again, keep BTC all in mind. We know we're coming up to a gap, coming up to a very critical level on BTC as well, where we're sort of teetering on a knife's edge. We're just hanging around that tightrope until then. We're waiting for either a drop or, to get to the other side. So just keep all that in mind. If you haven't already, again, check out unitytradinggroup.com. Jump into the Discord if you're not involved. Hopefully see you all there. And thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday night. And I'll see you guys for the stream tomorrow. Hopefully we get some decent candle structure and decent moves to talk about tomorrow. Thanks, guys. I'll see you then.